one that even Aiden had struggled to vanquish in the source material. This was despite Aiden having surpassed the abilities of most adept mages. By that juncture, however, his weakness resided in being vastly outnumbered. These sentinels possess an immunity to magic, owing to a divine benediction bestowed upon them by their deity. Fortuitously, this magical resistance poses no obstacle to Mord, as he is not a sorcerer. The Guardian denounces Mord as a heretic, as if anticipating a mere adolescent to possess knowledge of an archaic sect. Yet it also accords him a measure of respect, declining an ambush and instead proffering a dignified single combat against each Guardian present. It transpires that the Guardians react proportionally to the threat they confront, which clarifies why Aiden was overwhelmed. While Mord receives individual duels, this, however, is not even the Guardian's ultimate manifestation. It can undergo 2 further metamorphoses after each vanquishment. Yet Mord, in his characteristic manner, spoils the element of surprise by urging it to transform, a development that understandably infuriates the Guardian. After all, this blatant disregard for the established rules of combat is unacceptable. But its perspective shifts dramatically when Mord unleashes his potent divine blood. Une achète via signature technique. Seizing the moment, the Guardian delivers a classic villainous monologue before commencing its metamorphosis. By assimilating the energies of its fallen comrades, the Guardian swells into a colossal behemoth. Mord, having conquered his terror of gigantic adversaries, instantly springs into the fray. However, his aura-empowered fist is thwarted by a shimmering barrier, one of the inherent advantages of being a sacred protector. This compels him to temper his audacious assault. After a relentless barrage of blows, the shield finally splinters, propelling the Guardian crashing into the temple's ancient walls, a brutal reminder that it is facing the indomitable protagonist. The subsequent clash is even more preposterous. The Guardian nimbly evades Mord's aura-infused strike and retaliates with a direct blow to his midsection. Yet, the impact is entirely neutralized by Mord's iron-hard abs. As if that weren't mortifying enough, Mord proceeds to hurl the formidable Guardian around like a mere plaything, utilizing the environment as springboards for a series of devastating aerial assaults. He culminates the battle by slamming the Guardian into the earth with a thunderous lightning strike, leaving a gaping chasm in its chest. Curiously, while Mord deems the fight to have been relatively trivial, the Guardian offers a cryptic smirk before expiring. The rationale for this becomes evident when the effigy of the goddess commences to utter words. In its previous life, the Guardian had suffered an ignominious demise, treacherously stabbed in the back by a foe. However, Mord's actions inadvertently bestowed upon it a death filled with honor. The goddess, or rather the lingering vestiges of her divine essence within the statue, compensates Mord for his valiant deed with an ornate bracelet. The bracelet possesses the power to safeguard whomever Mord designates, provided it is imbued with the radiant energy of moonlight. This incident deviates from the original narrative, as magic in that realm was intrinsically linked to a malevolent entity, and the Guardian's passing was far from honorable enough to invoke the goddess's manifestation. Mord's deeds appear to have altered this predetermined destiny. Before Mord can express his gratitude, the deity's presence dissipates. In characteristic fashion, Mord then obliterates the statue, concluding his dungeon delve. With this act, he secures peace in the second world and departs the labyrinth, arriving back at the tombstone within the forest. There, he discovers Kel standing guard, employing a phalanx of spirits as sentinels. This fills Mord with pride, as Kel has effectively become his personal attendant, diligently fulfilling his every whim. The two embark on yet another arduous expedition, pausing briefly for respite in a small village. However, their sojourn is short-lived, as numerous destinations beckon within the rut-bound kingdom. For now, Kel's sole duty is to steadfastly aid Mord on his quest, to deliver the world from its imminent, grim fate. 20 days of arduous travel lead them to the bustling metropolis of Lorraine, a thriving commercial center. While Kel laments the relentless journey, Mord is elated to have discovered 2 more world fragments. With less than a month remaining before his arrival in Lorraine, he plundered another dungeon, seizing the 3rd fragment of the world. Now, Mord aims to seek out specific artifacts and locations before Aiden can reach them. However, he chooses to tarry for another day, resting until nightfall, granting Kelly the opportunity to deliver a clandestine report to Eldon regarding their present location. But Mord is already cognizant of this and dismisses it as trivial. However, there's a deeper motive behind Kelly's departure. He needs to replenish his dwindling funds. Because Mord demands more upkeep than a spoiled socialite from Los Angeles. Kel departs, assuming tranquility will prevail until nightfall, convinced that nothing will transpire to force Mord's unexpected exit or instigate any unforeseen chaos. Little does he suspect, he has inadvertently predicted the very calamity that will soon occur. A few hours later, upon his return, he discovers his premonition has manifested. The inn is engulfed in a raging inferno, and Kel ponders if he should perhaps pursue a career as a seer. These fragments were wielded by the ancient deities to forge their utopian world, contain elements such as molten lava fields, teeming with dancing, malevolent spirits, or a scorching, barren desert landscape. But once these fragments coalesce, their individuality surrenders to a formidable power within the wielder, a reality marble residing within the user, a realm they can traverse at will. Although it may appear as though Mord is merely meditating, he is in actuality honing his skills within this reality marble. The initial world fragment conjures a colossal mountain that pierces the clouds, while the second piece manifests a sprawling forest bathed in the ethereal glow of a pale, full moon. United, they forge a considerably more expansive reality marble. Regrettably, the third fragment remains isolated. However, this poses a negligible problem, as the potential power he can access has amplified significantly. He still possesses a new terrain to explore, nonetheless. His exploration comes to an abrupt halt when Mord detects an immense, unidentified flash within the forest behind him, triggering a detonation that engulfs the inn in flames. In the tangible world, a woman desperately implores for her infant's survival, abandoned at the inn amidst the explosion. Mord, resolute in his refusal to emulate the contemptible legacy of his lineage, rescues the infant. It's revealed that he and the inn were ensnared in a crossfire, caught in the open during broad daylight by two cloaked individuals. Mord glimpses their aerial escape and discerns one of their magical auras. To ascertain the perpetrator's identity, he pursues the offenders across the rooftops, oblivious to the fact that the individual whose training they interrupted is no ordinary being. They have no hope of evading him once he's aware of their location. He swiftly overtakes and intercepts one of them. The hooded figure attempts idle chatter, inquiring about the identity of the person they inadvertently provoked. This merely hastens his unavoidable demise. Mord, exhibiting no hesitation, crushes his skull in an instant. Before he can complete the task, the other culprit narrowly provides sufficient distraction, granting the besieged figure an opportunity to ingest a potent substance and amplify his strength. But he should have realized that performance enhancers severely diminish one's lifespan. In a flash, Mord decapitates him. Immediately after, Mord glances over his shoulder with such ferocity that it distorts the very perception of his features, silently urging his accomplice to flee. The tide has turned. In a mere instant, it takes the accomplice to initiate his retreat. Mord delivers a spinal kick with blinding speed. The man's predicament intensifies 100-fold as Kel abruptly ensnares him in a rear chokehold. These two behemoths brace themselves for an interrogation more harrowing than a lobotomy. Kel renders the accomplice unconscious with a forceful neck compression. Upon regaining awareness, he finds himself bound to a chair, confronted by the looming figures of the two monsters. They are poised to inflict agonizing torment for even the slightest errant breath. A misspoken word. They command absolute silence, suppressing even an involuntary whimper. The perpetrator steels himself, dreading the two ruthless inquisitors in his presence. The protocol against interrupting is swiftly enforced when Kel inquires about the objective of the offender's pursuit. However, Mord interjects with his insight on the situation, disclosing that the perpetrator was facilitating the warlord's resurgence. Essentially, the resurrection of the long-deceased. Arch-Lich mages attain their titles through a rudimentary hierarchy. Novice mages of the second circle, intermediate mages of the fourth circle, adept mages of the sixth circle, high mages of the eighth circle, and culminating in archmages of the ninth circle. An arch-lich is an archmage transformed into an undead being, and is designated a warlord upon attaining the ability to command a legion of the undead, possessing a multitude of followers. enables them to utilize contingencies in the event of demise, such as splintering their souls into fragments and sealing them as Horcruxes, allowing for resurrection when all the fragments are rejoined. Precisely the perpetrator's current course of action. For the first time in this narrative, Mord finds himself unable to discern the other individual's affiliations. The offender believes he can conceal this transgression to preserve his reputation, but inadvertently divulges the name Gremloader under duress. With a mere gesture from Mord, this clandestine organization operates to thwart the three apocalyptic prophecies that foretell global annihilation, one of which portends the resurrection of the formidable Arch-Lich warlord. Even the upper echelons within this enigmatic cult possess the power to unleash widespread devastation. Thus, the Arch-Lich is essentially a deity of destruction. Kell succumbs to panic while Mord remains imperturbable, as even Aiden managed to vanquish this menace with relative ease. Consequently, Mord deems it inconsequential, relegating it to a secondary objective. The interrogation subsequently shifts focus to the reason for the perpetrator's pursuit, which is revealed to be the pilfering of a relic, a key to a subterranean chamber, specifically designed to safeguard an artifact essential for the warlord's resurgence. For some time now, Mord has been subtly altering the course of events by imbuing significance to a previously unmentioned faction, an organization entirely absent from Gremolder's original narrative. Mord has acquired the crucial key. With this newfound advantage, he possesses the power to avert a catastrophe of regional proportions by vanquishing the tyrannical warlord within its own domain before its malevolence can seep into the human realm. Mord seizes the key and incapacitates the perpetrators, rendering them and their shadowy organization inconsequential. His ultimate objective, however, is the annihilation of the warlord's very essence, the fragmented remnants of its soul, before resurrection becomes a possibility. His crusade commences with the first of many targets, the time-worn ruins of the Arch-Lich warlord's ancient stronghold. Prior to this undertaking, he ventures into the clandestine black market to procure a specific artifact. Kell, once again, finds himself entangled in Mord's clandestine schemes, as Mord acquires an antiquated dagger and a forgotten tome for a mere pittance. Their journey then leads them to a fetid sewer, its stench overwhelming, for a fragment of the Arch-Lich lies concealed within its depths, accessible only through a concealed passage. Mord, however, prefers to avoid sullying his hands with the filth. Mord instructs Kell to unleash his innate wind magic upon the obstructing water. After a moment of hesitation, Kell complies. Kell successfully locates the concealed passage, guarded by a magically sealed steel portal. Harnessing the power of the wind spirit to dispel the water, Mord pierces himself with the corroded dagger, drenching it in his sacred blood. This act unveils the dagger's true function, a potent field of reversion, capable of neutralizing magic. The source of the dagger's extraordinary power lies in its creation from the very essence of the fallen war god. Vanquished by magic-wielding godkins, the dagger acts as a key to numerous ancient artifacts, amplifying their inherent capabilities. However, to fully unlock its latent potential, Mord must gather all three keys and decipher the enigmatic puzzle. He plunges the dagger into the heart of the steel door, disabling the magical barrier and retrieving the dagger. Kell expresses astonishment that such a potent relic cost a mere drink. He eagerly joins Mord in exploring the depths of the newly revealed dungeon, contrary to the vilified ones, as Mord imparted the art of concealment to him in return for such invaluable knowledge. Once they dispatched the warlord's resurgence organization's lackeys, the clandestine dungeon would manifest itself. The duo descended into a colossal subterranean chamber, already compromised and within the enemy's surveillance. Poised to retaliate against any imminent threat, they were abruptly ambushed by a throng of feeble ghouls and a contingent of the warlord's resurgence army. Mord effortlessly vanquished them, blitzing through the horde and brandishing his aura-infused gauntlets to showcase the sheer disparity in their power. The mage within the enemy ranks implored his comrades to impede Mord, while he confronted what he presumed to be reinforcements. However, his aspirations were shattered before he could even invoke a single incantation, as Kell unleashed a myriad of wind spirits to obliterate any opposition. Kell then audaciously challenged the petrified mage, swiftly dispatching the otherwise formidable members of the Warlord Resurrection faction. Kell and Mord advanced towards the dungeon's entrance. After neutralizing the potentially perilous dark magic artifacts, they utilized the key procured from the Grimoire Pilfer and unlocked the gateway to a somber realm, reminiscent of a demonic incursion labyrinth, but conjured by the Arch-Lich warlord wielding the might of the Godkin. Consequently, there exists no nexus to the demonic plane, as it was not an integral element of the narrative. The Chronicle offers scant intelligence on this subject, save for the peculiarity that this dungeon is inverted, comprising 9 distinct levels, each descent teeming with progressively more potent undead. However, empowered by Mord and Kell's exceptional prowess, they conquer it in a mere 10 minutes. Upon acquiring superior magical artifacts from the spoils, Kell appears euphoric, but swiftly becomes wary. Upon confronting the solitary fragment of the Arch-Lich, Warlord Mord deems it pathetic by his lofty standards, for the creature possesses merely Archmage-level power. He then divulges the creature's true name, Krex, a formidable Arch-Lich warlord of a bygone era. Yet all of this is inconsequential to Mord, who desires to obliterate this pitiful remnant of a memory, this faded echo of a once mighty being, with utmost haste. He grants the wretched soul not a single syllable of protest, immediately unleashing his divine blood release. However, Krex appears utterly unfazed, having confronted numerous heroes in his protracted existence. His isolation, his existence beneath the earth, has resulted in a profound and crippling ignorance. He remains blissfully unaware of the individual poised to annihilate him. In mere moments with devastating ice magic, Krex conjures ephemeral frozen behemoths as a preliminary test for Mord, a test which Mord passes with triumphant ease. He then proceeds to assault the impenetrable barrier encasing Krex, fusing his aura-infused blows with Kell's tempestuous wind spirit. Mord relentlessly pummels the shield, but their endeavors are swiftly neutralized by Krex's forbidden sorcery, drawn from the accursed forest, leaving Kell astonished by such an unexpected display of power. However, the ancient relic of a foe cannot evade a strike from another. Ancient armament, his ultimate weakness, rendering centuries of mastery futile. Mord triggers the mana reversal from the dagger, seeking to obliterate Krex's very essence. As Krex is pure magic incarnate, forced to his knees, he becomes utterly powerless in the face of imminent demise, at the hands of a relentless Mord, who unleashes a devastating mountain destroyer attack to conclude the fight. Only a fragment of Krex's skull, a solitary piece, tumbles towards Mord, but it's effortlessly pulverized, and the dungeon encounter concludes in a rather disappointing manner. Mord offers the disoriented half-elf a meager commendation for perhaps granting him a fleeting moment of advantage, but the bewildered Kell remains unable to comprehend its significance. Instead, he lauds the dagger's efficacy. Mord reveals its success was solely due to Krex's hubris. He neglected to invoke a substantial defense spell, relying on his existing permanent enchantment instead. They then obliterate the core, the Warlord's throne, and discover the fourth world piece. They're instantly transported outside the entrance gate, transforming the dungeon into a mere chamber. Furthermore, the spoils vanish along with it, leaving Kell utterly despondent. He grasps the truth. It was a chaotic dream, essentially an elaborate illusion.